Hey guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, bringing you another Goosebumps episode to review. This one comes from my childhood. This one is Goosebumps TV episode, The Werewolf of Fever Swamp. This is one of my all-time favorite Goosebumps episodes, and I'm going to give this a very high rating once we get to the rating. So let's talk a little bit about this two-parter. This was a two-parter from season 1. What's cool about these two-parters is that R.L. Stine introduces the first segment of the part 1, and then he closes out the second segment, the last segment in part 2. So, a little backstory. There's a lot of things I could go ahead and talk about, but if I get to talking too much, I'm going to spoil what the suspense is fueled in this book. So I'm going to try to do this as briefly but as kind of descriptive as possible. And in the first part of this episode, we meet the kid Grady, who's the main character. Grady and his family moved to Fever Swamp down in southern America, United States of America, by the way. It's like this little swamp town. And they move into this abandoned house, and Grady had to leave all of his friends from the suburbs where he used to live, and he's upset. He has no friends. And he meets a kid named Will. He gets a dog named Vandal, which he found in the wild. And a bunch of weird stuff starts happening. And some scary stuff that has to do with this swamp hermit. And the first part of the episode is developing the idea about this potential werewolf that's causing people to disappear in Fever Swamp. Then it goes into part 2, which I think is definitely the better episode because of all the action and all the revealing things that happen in that episode. Really set the tone for the overall two-parter. And ultimately, we find out that there is a werewolf, and who or what is the real identity of the werewolf. And then it happens on a cliffhanger. It happens on a cliffhanger, and it leaves you there. But it leaves it open to imagination, which is awesome. But like I said, if I got to talking about a little bit of details, you guys probably would have picked up on who or what the werewolf is. That's why I didn't want to go into too much depth of this, because this is such a monumental, not only episode, but definitely book in the original series, that I don't want to spoil anything. What I will say is I have read the original book, and there is minute differences in the episode, which after I review the book at some point, I will do a comparison video, and I'll compare the episode to the book. And I'll hold them up like this in the thumbnail and compare them. But for today, I'm only reviewing the episode. So, what I loved about this episode was the director, William Fruitt. He directed a couple of the iconic episodes. He was directing them, I think, all the way up until the very last episode, which was like Deep Trouble or something like that, which is also supposed to be properly called Deep Trouble 2 because it's Deep Trouble 2's plot, but they call it Deep Trouble. Little factoid there. But he made a bunch of the iconic episodes from the series, and this is definitely one of them. Now, what this episode captures as far as horror, the type of horror, is it's suspense, it's in-your-face scary, it's, I wouldn't say bloody, but it is pretty heart race-inducing. And for the subject matter, I definitely recommend that kids probably watch this episode with a parent, because this does have some nightmare-inducing imagery and some scenes, as you'll see in a house scene in part 2. There's a house scene, and there's a bunch of suspense. There's a lot involved with that will literally probably make a kid scream. So that's why I think that a kid probably should watch this episode with their parents, unless they're probably like maybe 9 or 10 or older. With that being said, is there any problems with this episode? No. I could not find one single thing to nitpick this episode. The minute differences from the book don't hurt this story. And some people I have heard in the past absolutely hate the ending of this episode. They absolutely hate it for some reason. I don't understand. I think it's a mildly better ending than what we got in the book. Honestly, I think it probably offers more visual horror than the imagination horror that you'll get from reading the book. I actually found the episode kind of superior to the book. That's just me. But also, I have read that book maybe when I was 10. So, 16 years ago was the last time I read that book. I definitely have to reread it so I can do a proper comparison. But as far as the production, the acting, some of the best acting jobs in Goosebumps history, TV show history, is definitely in this episode. And cool factoid, the kid who plays Grady was also in a movie called Freddy vs. Jason from New Line. Cool, right? He was also that spoiled kid from the Timberwolves in Air Bud. Yeah. I think his name, I don't know his name, the actor's name, but I'll, maybe one day I'll look it up and memorize it. There's a lot of really good acting jobs in this show, and he definitely did a phenomenal job. Also, the kid who played Will, phenomenal job. Some of the best chase scenes in Goosebumps is in this episode. Some of the greatest suspense ever in Goosebumps episodes. Some of the best suspense ever is in this. Okay? This is a great, I'm going to say this is a great, awesome starting place. First episode of Goosebumps if you have never watched a single classic Fox Kids era Goosebumps episode. So let's get into the rating. Realistically, I'm going to give this from a 0 to a 5 star, I'm going to give this a perfect 5. Realistically, there's nothing wrong with this episode. Personally, to me, some people may hate the ending. Some people may not like the differences to the book, and maybe they'll give it a lower rating. But for me, realistically, just judging the episode based on the production, the acting, the overall remembrance of the episode, the screenplay, it's definitely one of the more mature and darker overtone episodes that Goosebumps has to offer. And it definitely deserves a perfect 5, realistically. Personally, I would also give it a 5. It is one of my all-time favorite episodes. This was one of the episodes I watched on repeat when I was a kid. I had the VHS. It was one of my favorite books and still is today. I have nothing negative to say about this. So, Werewolf Fever Swamp, if you've never watched it, you should go watch it. And with that being said, I got another review right after this, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you next time.